character of Chuck Bass is a fan favorite among Gossip Girl fans. They swooned over his good looks, they obsessed over his wildly unstable relationship with Blair Waldorf, and they loved his outrageously cocky, borderline narcissistic personality that made his character so entertaining. But there was one huge problem with Chuck that some fans and the show's producers failed to properly address. No matter how horrible the things that Chuck Bass did, he was still painted as the bad boy with a heart of gold. But in reality, Chuck Bass was a horrible person that was violent towards his girlfriend, that enjoyed playing endless mind games with his girlfriend and other characters in the show, and most problematic of all, his character was an attempted rapist who tried to take advantage of several characters.
In season 1, Chuck Bass is closest to his book counterpart. He's framed as a sort of bad boy whose casual classism and reckless behavior are portrayed in opposition to Nate Archibald's more sensitive good boy archetype. Chuck often comes to represent the worst of what wealth and privilege can bring, and he approaches life with such a dangerous sense of entitlement that he views women as prey to be hunted.
Chuck likes to brag about his conquests, not his victims.
He attempts to assault both Serena and Jenny in the first episode, and frequently sleeps with staff in his father's hotel. But once season 2 hits, the writers quickly brush these major indiscretions aside in favor of a bad boy turned good narrative, quickly elevating his role from quippy side character to romantic hero in the vein of Dylan on Beverly Hills 90210, Jess from Gilmore Girls, or Pacey from Dawson's Creek. But unlike these other popular characters, Chuck doesn't change as much as the showrunners so desperately want us to believe. Rather than addressing his past sexual assaults by showing how he's learned from them, allegations from former staff are framed instead as an obstacle to Chuck's battle for the control of Bass Industries. He continues to view any woman who isn't Blair with little humanity, and that relationship, which was an obvious favorite among both fans and the writers, is questionable at best. In season 3, Chuck sells Blair to his uncle, also an attempted rapist, in exchange for ownership of a hotel. And in season 4, an inebriated Chuck reacts to Blair's recent engagement like this.
Come on, Blair.
Stop it, Chuck! I said it's over.
Yet over and over again, the show asks Blair, and by extension the audience, to forgive him, to root for him. Rather than showing us that Chuck has changed, the writers constantly undermine whatever this growth might be in their effort to give us an epic will they won't they romance. But that doesn't stop them from constantly telling us that he's good now. In a retrospective on Gossip Girl for Vox, Constance Grady classifies the expansion of Chuck's role as the major turning point in the show's tone. She states, "Watching his takeover is a case study in the dangers of letting a single character consume a narrative, and in the deep subliminal attractions that white male wealth and power can exert over a narrative." So a character who was once an attempted rapist and unabashed elitist in season 1 becomes the most important character by season 6, as he gets everything he could have wanted and more, marrying Blair, dominating his capitalistic conquests, and defeating his inexplicably living and murderous father.
The take defines the bad boy as the guy who's not so nice, but we're supposed to obsess over him anyway, not despite his antisocial qualities, but because of them. Looking at the bad boy on screen over the years, there are some key, reoccurring qualities that define him. He stands out from the crowd. A bad boy acts like he doesn't care about normal morals or values. He's created to be the antithesis of the nice guy. Of course, once we get to know him, we learn he does care about right and wrong, just on his own terms. The bad boy is the strong, silent type, the human equivalent of a mystery waiting to be solved. He's stereotypically attractive, usually tall, dark, and handsome. To cite the old cliche, men want to be him and women want to be with him. And that's fitting because the bad boy is a total cliche. Most important of all, the bad boy seemingly has the potential to be redeemed by love from a girl who cares enough to try to fix him. But the character of Chuck Bass was someone that was far more dangerous than just another cliche of the bad boy trope. His character was quickly presented to be this arrogant asshole with a terrifying habit of engaging in criminal behavior that he seemed to be 100% comfortable with, because he knew that he would not face any type of consequence. In the show's very first episode, Chuck tries to rape Serena. She's drunk and sad, and when they are alone in the kitchen of his father's hotel, Chuck says, "If you're looking for a way to thank me, I've got a couple of ideas." He presses himself against her. She shakes her head and says no. She shouts for him to stop and pushes him away as he kisses and grabs her, and eventually she shoves him off. Then, in the same episode, Chuck tries to rape Jenny. He leads her to a dark and empty roof. The show's voiceover nonchalantly says, "We'll see end up with a new victim." "See" means Chuck, of course. He cups her chin and kisses her, but she pulls away and asks to go back downstairs. Instead, he persuades her to have a glass of champagne. Terrified, Jenny texts her brother Dan, asking for help. 2 scenes later, Chuck's got Jenny pinned down against a wall as she tries to break free. Dan and Serena come to the rescue, and Jenny breaks free. Chuck shrugs off the attempted rape by saying, "It's a party, things happen," before turning to Serena, aka the girl that he tried to rape earlier, and saying, "Your life is over, slut." The attempted rape of Serena and Jenny is breezed over, and Chuck Bass never pays a consequence for his actions. And who could forget in season 1, after Chuck finds out that Blair slept with both him and Nate, he passes the information on to Gossip Girl to slut shame Blair, which ends up ruining Blair's reputation. After Nate wants nothing to do with her anymore, Blair goes to Chuck to tell him that he is all she's got now. Instead of offering comfort, Chuck says, "You held a certain fascination when you were beautiful, delicate, and untouched. Now you're like the Arabian my father used to own, rode hard and put away wet. I don't want you anymore, and I can't see why anyone else would." And how about the time that Chuck literally proved that he viewed Blair as nothing more than his property when he literally exchanged her to his creepy uncle for a hotel business deal? Then, seasons later, after Blair and Chuck have had this on and off relationship throughout the series, Blair decides to marry someone else. Chuck does not take the news well, as he is still in love with Blair. She goes to see him at his place, and he grabs her, pushes her against a wall, and then breaks the window behind her, all because she told him that she's going to marry a man that is not him. During his outburst, Blair's face is cut from the glass, flying everywhere. Chuck says, "You're mine, Blair." The reaction from Chuck is incredibly violent and not okay. Throughout this series, the endless mind games that Chuck plays with Blair and the other characters on the show cause them extreme emotional distress. And these are just a few of the horrible things that Chuck Bass did throughout the 6-season run of Gossip Girl. So basically, the character of Chuck Bass is nothing more than an attempted rapist who treats women like property and enjoys playing mind games with people to try to bring them down. His misogyny, dominant, and entitled attitude is always in full display, and he gets away with doing horrible things with absolutely zero consequence in return. In conclusion, Chuck Bass shouldn't be anyone's favorite Gossip Girl character because he is a reprehensible and abusive person of questionable character.